speaking as a former public school teacher, you know, there were times when I was overwhelmed with this activity or that activity, and I wanted to always be progressive and do a good job teaching, but you know, you can only bite off so much at a time, really. Mm-hmm. So, you know, trying to do something new is better than not doing anything at all.
Right, and that's what I tell pre-service teachers, that you are not going to be the super teacher the first day you walk into the classroom. So when we talk about 21st century skills and looking at ways to embed that into what we're already teaching, I always say start small.
Yeah.
You know, take a single unit and think about what could I do to embed those skills in that unit, which ones would work best, and then you add to that over time. And so it's not going to happen every day in every lesson that you teach.
Right.
And so, you know, teachers don't need to be overwhelmed by the model, but instead need to think about ways in which they can embed it over time.
Well, let me ask you this. Here at Mary Washington, of course, you're teaching in the graduate education program and have adult students, mostly non-traditional students. Do you employ some of these 21st century learning skills in your own teaching?
Yes. You know, many times in the classroom, I try to turn the table so the students are the ones who are the active facilitators,
right,
and I'm the guide on the side, so to speak. And then there is, across all of the courses I teach, a series of projects where they do work collaboratively together and where they have opportunities to engage in thinking about how classrooms need to change. So that's embedding the concepts of the critical thinking and problem solving. But also, I really focus a lot on the concept of creativity. I want them to think differently about how classrooms should look, and also how schools should look differently. Not just what would happen in my classroom setting, but the school organization as well.
It's interesting that in the revised Bloom's taxonomy, creation has become the apex of the triangle. That's a real 21st century skill.
And, you know, I think that's very exciting because I think too often for students now, the easy answer is I'll Google it, I'll find the answer, and that's what I'll bring into the classroom. What's going to be the challenge for teachers in this age of technology is to think about how can I create models in classroom, how can I create activities in the classroom that will force the students to think on their own instead of looking for answers from somebody else.
Now, another educational school of thought out there is the attention that we give to the millennial student, the student that is, say, born in the 21st century or nearly. You know, that movement talks about the social networking and the brain-based theory of being always multitasking. Are these processes anywhere related?
Oh, I think absolutely. Because I think when you talk about social networking, for example, I think the opportunities to connect with people around the world. And I think there are so many opportunities now for classrooms to connect to each other, sometimes in real time, sometimes not. For example, it would be very easy in the United States for students to connect in real time to students that were living in Canada, students that were living in Mexico. And so that's an opportunity for social networking. I think there are also opportunities through all of the other technology that is out there for students to connect, not only talking about things that are related to specific course content, but I think also if they connect through these social networks to talk about things they enjoy doing outside of school, they are going to recognize we're far more alike than we are different. And hopefully that will have implications globally and politically in the future.
We're talking about 21st century learning, and it brings me back to discussions in my education courses of Vygotsky and social networking and social construction of knowledge. It seems this is a case of the more things change, the more they stay the same.
One of my favorite activities with students is to take an issue and to have them look at it from the perspectives of various countries involved in whatever political issue is currently of interest. And I think the opportunity for the social networking provides some real interesting opportunities for us to look at some of the global issues, whether we're talking about climate control, whether we're talking about political disagreements that result in war. How are those things viewed by people around the world to give different perspectives? And there's so many simple ways that you can do that with just newspapers, and to look at newspapers around the world and look at the editorials and how they are covering the different news stories. And I've used that in the past, and we've done the translations, and it's been really eye-opening, I think, for students to see that not everybody believes the things that we believe and has a different perspective.
Yeah.
You mentioned technology earlier, and with technology we have that ability to communicate globally. We also have the new internet sites, the Web 2.0, the mashups. Do you see public school teachers being able to take advantage of some of these internet opportunities, knowing that their networks are fairly locked down?
I think it's a challenge in the public school setting because they are controlled, and you do have to get special permission to be able to connect to certain sites. And I think that's a challenge. And while I understand the need for security and protecting children and so forth, I think there needs to be an opportunity to give teachers that opportunity. I have sometimes been in schools presenting workshops and have tried to connect to sites I wanted to share with teachers, and the site was unavailable because of the system security. So I think that's frustrating for teachers. And I think that as a result, because they can't sometimes do those things in schools on their own or in collaboration with colleagues, that sometimes they just don't have the opportunity once they leave the school site.
Yeah. One of the things that I've found is to use screen capture software and capture an interaction with a website and then show it in public. But of course, that's second best, I guess. Mm-hmm. Do you see any opportunities for 21st century learning skills in distance education?
I think absolutely. I think as we talk about more online environments for learning, I think certainly the collaboration is certainly a tool that can be used. I think one of the things that we need to do, though, is that we need to do a lot more professional development for those that are directing such online learning programs in terms of how to do that effectively.
Right.
Because I think it's far more than just a discussion board. But I don't think that people necessarily know what's out there and what's available for them to use. But I think in terms of exposing them to sites and to problems to be solved and to think critically and certainly to think globally, that can be done within the context of online learning.
I agree. Dr. Huffman, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.